Hello, ladies, and welcome to Menopause Made Easy with Tanya. Sorry if I'm sounding nasally, but I still have a bit of a cold. I'm taping this in November. It's a change of season, and my body is working just to, get me into this new season. If you look into a book called, I think it's called Why We Catch a Cold or something along those lines, it's fascinating. Oh my God, I won't get into that today because today we're going to talk about how menopause does not signal the end of a woman's contribution in this life, but it marks a new phase of leadership, nurturing, legacy that benefits the whole entire family. And it's not all this drudgery and, negativity that we surround it with. I really think we need an upgrade in our way we are approaching menopause. Now, I will tell you, when I went through perimenopause in my late 30s and 40s, oh my gosh, I really wish I knew the information that's being shared today. So I cannot thank the doctors that are stepping up and apologizing for not having menopause training, for not having nutritional training, for not having lifestyle training in their teachings as becoming a doctor. And just saying, like, we have failed women miserably as they transition through this phase of life. But I'm just loving how people are stepping up, sharing their experiences, because perimenopause is such an interesting time. And again, it affects everybody differently. But had I known and understood now what I knew then, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have thought that I was, so crazy, feeling anxious and lonely and depressed and unhappy, even though I'm so grateful for my life. But just this deep sorrow that I had within me and this overwhelm and just many of the things that I reflect back on going, oh my gosh, like if I knew what was coming, I could have handled that much better. Anyway, knowledge is power, and then when you put it into action, it's even more powerful. But today I want to talk about what is being tossed around. I don't know if you've heard this at all, but it's the grandmother hypothesis. And I'm just going to share that with you today because I want to give you a different lens to look through menopause with, especially if you are postmenopausal, which it's November. I have basically 2 more months of not having a period. If I get to the end of January, then I will officially have a menopausal date, and then the next day be postmenopausal. Check out episode number 2 if you want to know the difference between perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So this grandmother hypothesis is this idea that helps explain why women live long after menopause, even though they can no longer have children. And, it doesn't mean that if you aren't a grandmother, this doesn't apply to you. This is just a term that they've used. So, be it what it may, if you are postmenopausal, a grandmother or not, this still applies to you. So here's a simple way to kind of understand it. But the core idea is that once a woman reaches menopause, becomes postmenopausal, right? Your body stops its focus on having children and shifts towards helping family or your community in another way. And, so much of our energy is spent in these reproductive years, like our cells are really working on overdrive for reproduction. Then those of you that did have children, you realize, oh my gosh, like these 20 years, my kids are 21 and 22 now. Wow, what a blink, what a flash. What an amazing experience. I'm just so honored and privileged that I was able to be a mother and am a mother to these two beautiful, incredible children. But let me tell you, it's the biggest lessons I've ever learned when it comes to self-growth and emotional, physical, oh, jeepers. I mean, it's a hats off to every mother and parent out there because it is a completely undervalued job. And in and of itself, it could be a full-time job without anybody working. So I will leave it at that. But this grandmother of hypothesis, again, whether you had children or not, you are no longer focused on having children. And so you are shifting. And we want to now share our wisdom, right? And help community and family to thrive so that we can see this next generation grow up to be healthy and successful. And so why is it important that we honor those in postmenopause as opposed to, perhaps move them to the side thinking that what they have to share is not important, is that this is an amazing time for our elders, postmenopausal women, to share our life lessons, our family traditions, our practical knowledge, and help with families and communities to lift them up, because now we have, more time now that we're not raising children. And some of us, may have grandchildren, right? And so this gives us more time and opportunity to help our kids with their children. And we have the time and the resources to help, just give our time and energy. And fortunately or unfortunately, growing up in a small town, we moved here when my kids were 1 and 2. I really saw the impact of families that live in the same place for a long time. Now, in my life, I have never had that because I didn't live around my grandparents, and I think I missed out. I really, really do. One set of grandparents lived in Toronto, which is not that far away. And the other ones lived in Europe, in England. And we did not have, honestly, great family bond, if I'm going to be, blunt about it. So I really missed out on my grandmother's wisdom and my nana's wisdom. And unfortunately, my children are in the same boat because my mother has lived overseas their entire life. And so there's really not a huge relationship, which I feel for both of them on both sides because they don't know what they missed. My dad and stepmother live closer, and there's definitely more of a bond, but not like some of the ones I see here. So hats off to all of you who really do provide a great environment for your grandchildren. I see some of it, and it makes me so happy. So thank you for those that are willing to give their time and energy to their grandchildren. Grandmothers offer a lot of emotional support, not only to the mother, right, being able to pass down her wisdom, but she can also be there for the grandchildren to help with their emotional stability and nurturing, which is really crucial for a developing child. So from an evolutionary perspective, women may have developed longer lifespans. Typically women live longer than men after menopause because we need these wise women. We need wise women around us to help with these younger generations, to give these families an advantage. And we also need active grandmothers because active grandmothers are more likely to survive and thrive. And unfortunately, this message around aging is one of becoming sedentary and sitting and not being active and vibrant. And so many people I talk to that are postmenopausal are not moving, they're not eating properly, they're carrying extra body fat, their joints are aching, they're tired, they don't have extra to give. And so through my podcast and, any other source that you can find that resonates with you, I just implore you to take the CEO of your health, put it in your hands, and find some purpose and passion that makes you want to get up in the morning to thrive and be energetic and be moving and connecting with nature and connecting with your grandchildren and being active physically and mentally with them. So menopause does not, as I said, signal the end of a woman's contributions, but it really marks the next phase of leadership and nurturing and benefits the entire family. So one lady, as I'm sure many of you have been following her, I've been following her for a few years now. I've done many of her programs, but is Dr. Mindy Pelz. And I listened to a few of her web podcast episodes. I've read her books. I'm in her community. And I'll mention a few of them here, but understanding the changes in your female brain after 40 with Dr. Lisa Mosconi, which if you listen to last week's episode, I really dove into some suggestions that Dr. Lisa Mosconi says to improve your brain health. Another podcast or article I listened to is The Movement Diet, Redefining Fitness at Every Age with Katie Bowman. And Katie Bowman is, again, somebody I have listened to for like the last 15 years. I love her perspective on human movement, and it's one that I add into my classes in my Vibrant Living membership, where we're really trying to look at functional fitness to keep you, moving. And, just one of the things Katie talks about, which I just see the decline of, is our kitchen skills, our cooking skills, our cutting and chopping, our fine motor movement with our hands. Instead of picking up all the shredded stuff and the prepackaged cut stuff, simply by getting in the kitchen and cutting, you're using fine muscle movement. Now, have you really ever thought about that? I just find that fascinating. So it's definitely given me a new view on all the things that I do in the kitchen. I'll expand on that in another episode. Strength training to cardio, comprehensive movement plan with Dr. Stacey Sims. And then the Essential Menopausal Toolbox with Dr. Mary Claire Haver. If you haven't read her book, The New Menopause, it's really great, and I'll do an episode on that. So from that, basically, I pulled together that Dr. Mindy she talks about this grandmother hypothesis, and she'll be having a book come out at the end of this year, 2025. And I'm not going to tell you the name of it. She can tell you the name of it herself. But I love listening to her concept and ideas, and she explores this grandmother hypothesis through the lens of how menopause reshapes women's roles in health. And her hypothesis suggests that postmenopausal women play a critical evolutionary role, particularly in supporting their families and communities. And she really emphasizes that this life stage isn't about decline, but about transitioning into leadership and nurturing roles. And again, we're not hearing this in the mainstream media. I have to be honest, I don't listen to mainstream media, but when I listen to my peeps, they tell me that this is not the message. And from a recent retreat I did with Lisa, where I was teaching women about the balanced menopausal plate balance movement, sugar versus fat burner, how to tap into our fat burning systems and drop belly fat. I was surprised at how little some people knew, because it's not talked about. And I'm just like thinking everybody knows this stuff. But anyway, so, during our transition into perimenopause, menopause, we really have a lot of hormonal and brain changes, which again, you can go listen to last week's episode during this menopausal journey, which promote empathy, emotional regulation, big picture thinking. If you, again, read Dr. Lisa Mosconi's books, we have these neurons, like the people-pleasing neurons, that get pruned away because we don't need that anymore. And then we're making these new neural networks in our brain. And these shifts are where we need to, stand up. And we have so much wisdom to share with our younger generation, right? And so we need to be prepared to be wise physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to be there for our younger peeps that are, in need of our support and our wisdom. So I love this thinking about how women are really, in my community anyway, really stepping up and looking at postmenopausal women as cultural leaders, and really stepping into that wise woman role. So, when you're feeling down and out about getting older, realize, that's a fact of life. We're all getting older. And to embrace the beauty of our mind, our body, our wisdom, and what can we be doing on a daily basis to mentally keep ourselves sharp, physically keep ourselves sharp. Just, oh my gosh, so many amazing things that we can do that don't take a lot of effort. So that is something for you to think about, the grandmother hypothesis. You may or may not have heard it before. You may start to hear it more now that I've talked about it, because remember that RAS system, your reticular activating system. It's like when you're pregnant and then you start to see everybody pregnant, or you get a red Subaru and then you notice how many people have a red Subaru. Just like me mentioning the grandmother hypothesis, you may start to be on alert for hearing this. And just know that you have so much love and wisdom within you to share, and the world needs your light, it needs your spirit, it needs your love, it needs your compassion. And on that note, we must keep ourselves healthy and physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually. So God bless all of you. Big hugs to everybody. And please share this with the beautiful women in your life. And if it's in your heart, please rate, review, and share my podcast with others. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a beautiful day.